close your heart to it. Come then. We have a long journey. Wait here. I will handle this.
God of War 2018, developed by Santa Monica Studio, is more than just a fresh coat of paint on a classic car. It's a complete restoration. Everything screams new, from the depth of its open-world RPG-based mechanics to the minor details of each character model. Right from the start, in-engine cutscenes invite you back to the company of our returning hero Kratos, bearing a familiar burden of tragedy with his son, who we haven't met until now.
Mother, do they call to me?
An untold number of years have elapsed since his journey atop Mount Olympus, and within the first half hour of gameplay, we can already tell much has changed since then. In this review, we'll discuss those changes and see how well they fare upon our journey into Norse mythology and God of War for the PS4 and PC.
Come. No looking back now.
As I mentioned earlier, in-engine cutscenes deliver a more intimate experience for the player than ever before. This technique isn't new. In fact, that same year, we saw Insomniac's Spider-Man and Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption 2 incorporate in-engine cutscenes to deliver timeless, award-winning tales of their own. Santa Monica Studio, on the other hand, set out to solve two common issues plaguing good storytelling, one of which were loading screens, which have now been rendered imperceptible to the naked eye. This can be seen as you shimmy along walls or squeeze into tight crevices on your way to a new location. The other benefit of this breakthrough arrives in the form of a seamless single-shot presentation, running at a consistent 60 frames per second, and more if your PC hardware can handle it. This gives you, the player, more time to admire the beautiful world your journey is a part of, without the need to compare computer-generated graphics over in-game rendering. As the story goes, following the destruction of the Olympic pantheon of gods, Kratos set off after some time to Midgard in ancient Norway. There he met his destined-to-be wife, Faye, and together they fell in love and conceived a child named Atreus. Faye passes away not long after, which prompts him and his son to cremate her in order to spread her ashes atop the highest peak in all the realms, as was her dying wish. This is where the game starts proper, as the two depart, Atreus with talon bow in hand, and his father, Kratos, wielding a new weapon called the Leviathan Axe. The gameplay is defined by how well you wield the Leviathan Axe, and if you take the time to learn how to master it like I did, you can put the god in God of War. Combat ranges from light attacks with R1, which get their name from the speed in which you can perform the attacks, to heavy attacks with R2, which require more time to complete but dish out devastating results. You can also hurl your axe at a distance, as some foes, like the nightmares, tend to be harder to hit at close range. Afterwards, retrieving your axe is as simple as pressing the triangle button. In practice, enemies don't go down easy, and when you're face to face with an ogre, you'll need to rely on magic to lend you an edge in battle.
Ready yourself.
Magic comes from runes you find scattered throughout the world, which can be equipped to your axe to trigger special effects on command, including a quick burst of light as seen by Hell's Touch that can stagger big foes and leave them vulnerable to attack. Hell's Touch is considered a light runic attack, but heavy runic attacks can take damage to an all-new level. What I came to find is that combat in God of War was constantly pushing me to be better. As you learn to chain your swings in between blocking with your shield, you might begin to notice your opponent's stun meter start to fill up. As soon as the meter reaches the top, you're open to unleash a finishing move with the right stick. making for a quick end to the battle. This is where Atreus comes in, as he directly contributes to the flow of combat by deploying a variety of arrow types at your command, ranging from light elemental arrows to quickly build up that stun meter to electric elemental arrows that paralyze enemies in place. Keep in mind, arrows and fists have a greater effect on this meter than strikes with your axe, so the damage trade-off can be worth the risk. The best part is, for the first time in the series, you can see in real time how potent your attacks are, with the addition of health bars, letting you know what's working and what's not. Let's talk about the other aspects of combat, starting with your shield. While primarily used as a tool for defense, it too can be used as a weapon. If you're fast enough, blocking with your shield can trigger what is known as a parry, which I found useful in my battle against the stranger, as it allowed me to create openings to deal additional damage before he had a chance to retreat. Down the road, you'll also unlock the old school Blades of Chaos, which encompass the element of fire in their strike, as opposed to the Leviathan Axe, which discharges the element of ice. This rounds out the arsenal of weapons at Kratos' disposal.
The axe did not return.
To those just starting out, keep an eye on your Spartan Rage meter, as damage dealt with your fists, finishing moves, and damage taken contribute to filling it. Once activated with the thumbsticks pressed, Kratos unleashes Spartan Rage, which overwhelms enemies with a devastating flurry of punches and shockwave attacks that draw upon this meter until it's depleted. Put together, you have yourself an unbeatable offensive play.
So much more to come. I'm excited to be surprised. I don't know what's gonna happen. You never know what's gonna happen.
When not in the midst of combat, you'll begin to appreciate God of War's all-new open-world environment, which is a first for the series. Midgard, home of the Lake of Nine, translates to middle ground, and is where you'll spend the most time on your journey. At its center lies Tyr's Temple, used to connect Midgard to each of the 9 realms represented by realm towers found around the lake, which you can explore. This is how the Lake of Nine gets its name. Each realm constitutes a branch of what is known as the Yggdrasil, also known as the World Tree. But of these 9 branches, only 6 are available within the game. Within each realm lies a distinct habitat, as befits stepping into an entirely different world. And with that comes a slight change of pace.
Everything comes back to the tree. So, that's how it works. But I'm guessing you were looking for a more practical answer.
Yes.
When I first entered All-New, I was quick to note the cacophony of light emanating from its lush fauna, as it pulled me in with its beauty, while at the same time reinforced the Leviathan Axe's applications outside of combat. Up to this point, you might already be familiar with the Bell puzzle used to open Nornir chests back on Midgard, and with that comes a similar challenge. In this realm, puzzle solving is promoted as a means of progression alongside combat, encouraging you to sever the hearts of red vines in quick succession to open the path ahead. I really enjoyed this shift in gameplay because it encouraged me to take stock in where I was going and master my aim with the axe. Comparably, there's even a puzzle for Atreus, who can infuse crystals with the light from his arrows to create light bridges, delivering that father and son chemistry we've all been hoping to see. Puzzles have always been a staple in the God of War series, so I'm glad to report they've been seamlessly interwoven into the gameplay of this entry as well. This gameplay loop changes from realm to realm, giving Muspelheim, for example, acts as a sort of fight club where you must complete combat trials to score new resources and upgrades outside of the main story. However, the reason Alfheim is so special is because he tells a story about the denizens that once lived there. This is the home of the Light Elves, who are at war with the Dark Elves at the time of your visit. I wish I could have seen more of this, but unfortunately, you won't get to see actual civilizations per se, as hinted at in the sequel God of War Ragnarok.
You'll get your answer soon enough. Well, some of them.
As a result, this left some realms feeling emptier than others, owing to the lack of notable NPCs to interact with. Fortunately, there's still plenty to find, and thanks to the open world nature of the game, revisiting each realm is as easy as returning to the realm travel room. to book your next destination. The good news is within each realm, you can use what is known as the Key of Yggdrasil to fast travel to designated areas you already discovered in that realm. I remember this helped me the most when I was fighting the Valkyries, who would remain near a realm travel point so I could return back to them later when I felt prepared to take them on.
This tree is a metaphor for the franchise of God of War. And at the very beginning of the franchise, we chopped that fucker down.
All the beauty in the world would mean nothing, not for the variety and complexity of good level design. Tucked away in every realm lay relics of Norse culture, not the least of which impact gameplay, such as Idun apples, which enhance your maximum health, and the horns of Bloodmead, which raise your Spartan rage meter. Stat boosts aren't the only valuable items worth collecting. You'll also uncover cabinet murals, many of which depict the lives of the Jotnar, who suffered destruction at the hands of Odin and the reigning Aesir gods during the Aesir-Vanir War. Atreus shines brightest here, deciphering the Norse text and translating it for his father, beckoning forth his trademark stoic silence. This was never lost on me considering his Spartan upbringing. However, Atreus exhibits a charm befitting his naivete, which permeates itself in the many side quests established around Midgard, such as those where you help wayward spirits return home. Not all side quests are like this, of course, as some require you to seek out the Valkyries, who've been driven to insanity by a curse that imprisons them in their physical form, awaiting a challenger to come and set them free. Others might have you seek out the Eyes of Odin, which allude to a greater presence in the series to come. Nevertheless, what we have here is a method of level design that resonates in its world building to establish a more grounded connection with its audience.
Say, you're not gonna believe me, but that axe you got, it was me what made her. Me and my brother.
Speaking of grounded, I'd like to formally welcome you to the shop, run by the rivaling brothers Brock and Sindri, who together comprise the new bartering system found in God of War. As you play the game and defeat story bosses, you'll score the Frozen Flames, used to permanently upgrade your Leviathan Axe over at their shops. Each upgrade raises your base weapon's stats, which corresponds to a higher power level for your overall persona. Thanks to clever implementation, the folks over at Santa Monica Studio developed the power level system to demonstrate how enemies scale based on your chosen difficulty and who it is you're fighting.
There's no use hiding anymore.
Those seeking a real challenge can choose a higher difficulty level, but even so, you'll still find some locations are simply designed to test you at later stages in your character development. Honestly, this is the part that kept me coming back because the more I upgraded, the more skills I could learn to become more effective in combat. This extends to Atreus as well. Why not deploy arrows faster with a Talon Quiver upgrade? Better yet, remember how I talked about Hell's Touch, a light runic attack for the Leviathan Axe? Well, on the flip side, Atreus can equip runic summons to his Talon Bow to conjure up a mystical pack of wolves to stagger attackers before you can begin your strike. If that's not enough, depending on the amount of hacksilver in your possession, you can even craft entirely new armor sets, or mix and match them to create your own preferred build that matches your playstyle. That means if you want to look like this, you'll have to earn it with hard work, not virtual currency.
What'd you find?
Enough distraction. Do not forget why we are here.
As you might have already guessed by now, God of War's deep and rewarding experience in gameplay alone is already worth the price of admission. But what about its dazzling 20-hour campaign? Well, luckily, I've saved the best for last.
Good.
Caught in the aftermath of a great war between the Aesir and the Vanir come Kratos and Atreus, who I've already mentioned seek the highest peak in all the realms. What I haven't mentioned is that the highest peak in all the realms isn't on Midgard, but rather a realm called Jotunheim, the home of the giants. Thankfully, atop the peak of Midgard resides
Mimir,
Smartest man alive.
who promises to get them to Jotunheim in exchange for liberation from his unfortunate predicament. Mimir was easily one of, if not my favorite character in the game, because he manages to unlock the potential of his fellow supporting cast, including everyone's favorite, the World Serpent, whom he can speak with.
This is great! Yeah! Mom said he's friendly!
Boat rides suddenly became detailed accounts of the history between the gods and the giants, including Mimir's role in their affairs.
Took some convincing, but ultimately Odin was persuaded to marry his deadliest enemy.
By bridging the gap in their knowledge base, Kratos and Atreus learn who to trust given that they are being hunted without a reason as to why. And so, the quest for truth begins. Not just to find Jotunheim, but also to define who they are as gods, and their place in the world. This is a story in which godhood is depicted as both a blessing and a curse. Faced with the tragedy Kratos endured in his past, choosing to leave it all behind made war an instrumental part of his own character development. When the time came for his son to learn the truth, I couldn't shake the feeling that his reaction foreshadowed a rift to come between him and his father that could be fleshed out in a sequel. What I really liked is how Freya, a Vanir goddess and the Witch of the Woods, understands all too well what it means to be a god, especially in a foreign land.
They'll make things difficult.
Ultimately, the best part for me was getting to see the interaction between a father and his son. That felt so natural at times that I began to wonder if it was based on something real. Surprisingly, while writing this review, I discovered in some ways it is, as the director, Cory Barlog, had recently become a father during the making of this game. Be prepared to witness the might of the Norse gods and numerous shocking reveals, including the existence of Tyr, the Norse god of war, who never appears but leaves behind clues to get to Jotunheim. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to check out the original trilogy to see how Kratos, amid his quest for revenge, became the god of war and what it led to. If you do, you'll realize, like I did, that this entry doesn't throw away the parts you enjoyed about the series, but instead harnesses them and evolves them, making this the strongest in the series to date.